Thanks for checking out Pac-10 Sports Talk. We're moving into Week 10 predictions right now. I'm going to start off with Washington going down to Oregon. Jason, what's your predictions on the game?
Well, I don't think there's a lot to say about this. Jake Locker's out, injured, broken rib. New quarterback starting his first game in hostile environment, Hudson State. And Oregon on a roll, 72-10.
I'd like to. For me personally, I like to break this game down. No,
what do the Ducks need to do?
Keys to win. No, this is a blowout. It's 61-7 Oregon on this one.
Oh. Well, you know, the Ducks have won the last 6 games. I could give a lot of cutesy analysis of what the Ducks could do to win this game, but honestly, if the Ducks show up and the Huskies show up and they play the game, the Ducks are going to win. It's just a matter of how much does Chip Kelly want to score, and how much does he play as reserves? But I see it 62-17.
Wow, okay, nice big high scores. Arizona State taking on USC. Joel, predictions?
It depends on what Arizona State team showed up. If it's the same Arizona team that played last week, that plays a complete game, offensive, defensively, stays away from the mistakes, the penalties, I think the game can be close. Also depends on USC. Are they playing with an attitude? Are they playing with a conviction that they have something to play for the rest of the year? You know, it depends on what two teams show up. But I think at the end of the day, USC has way too much talent, and I can't see a Dennis Erickson team going back-to-back weeks playing consistent. So I'm going to go kind of a blowout on this. I'm going to go 37-17 USC.
Again, like Joel said earlier, I think it's going to be a test of USC character this week. See if they can pick themselves up. I mean, I think their psyche might have, I mean, I don't know. The psyche could have been shaken a little bit against Oregon. Maybe it wasn't. So, as I said, do they pick themselves up, or do they climb aboard, the whole team climb aboard Troutford and they right into the sunset? I don't know. ASU has been owned by USC in the last 9 years. The last loss USC had to them was back in '99. But this game may be just what the doctor ordered for USC to get well and to heal that wounded Trojan pride from Oregon. So ASU has the talent, like Joel said, ASU has the talent to possibly win a game like this, but they just oftentimes don't bring it. So I'm going to go with USC 32, ASU 21.
Okay.
I think my buddy Steven Threep, the turnover machine, returns this week, and he'll throw a couple interceptions.
That guy loves Threep.
I do. I'll tell you what. I think the USC defense is too much, way too much for the Arizona State offense, and USC wins 42-31.
Okay. Oregon State coming off a win, going to play UCLA. Jack, your predictions?
Well, you know, Oregon State, despite all the hoopla about the Oregon Ducks, national attention and all that, they're still alive for the Rose Bowl. And if they beat Oregon, if they win out, they can still knock the Ducks out of the Rose Bowl, and they can still go to the Rose Bowl themselves. So, and honestly, playing UCLA, I think it's going to keep Oregon State on the right track. I think they're going to continue to roll, unless the UCLA comes out wearing Texas Longhorn uniforms, and that triggers something in UCLA that, you know, hasn't been there for a number of games. If they do something stupid like that, UCLA could win. Barring that, I see Oregon State winning 29-17.
Yeah, this is a blowout. It's too much. Oregon State has too many weapons. I like Katz, who I think, just like Darren Thomas, I think he's getting better week in and week out. And too much Jaquiz Rogers. And also, I like to you got to stop ignoring Marcus Wheaton, who's kind of taken over James's Rogers. But not that he's James Rogers. But I mean, that guy's a quick guy. He's definitely a threat. And I see Oregon State winning this 31-10. Also, I think for Oregon State, UCLA's offense right now, I think is pretty one-dimensional. I think teams have had success with them recently because they have shut down that run game and try to make Brahew beat them in the air, which obviously he has been unable to do so far.
I actually have UCLA scoring a bit more. I don't have them winning the game, but I do have them scoring a bit more than 10 points. I have it 38-21 for Oregon State. I think Ryan Katz and Jaquiz Rogers, they limit turnovers. They do not turn the ball over, which is the reason why they're winning the games, and that'll help them win on the road.
Okay. So now Cal's on the road, going to play Washington State.
My nemesis.
Yeah, Joel, I mean,
she's got to me.
Take the first one.
Well, yeah, that's a tough one because obviously, as we've discussed, Cal does not play well on the road, and now you've got your quarterback out. And as bad as Kevin Riley has been, there was a reason why he was your #1 quarterback at Cal. So that shows you where Brock Mansion is, and you know that's not a good quarterback. However, they are. I do believe when it's all said and done, they do have more talent, both offensively and defensively. I think they're going to get a heavy dose of Shane Vereen, which will open up the passing lanes for Brock Mansion. And I think when it's all said and done, that Cal's able to pull out a squeaker in Pullman, 24-21.
Well, you know, this game marks the beginning of the post-Kevin Riley era at California. Tip of the hat to a fallen warrior, by the way. Good job, Kevin. This week is a best chance I think Washington State's going to have for a while to pick up a victory in the Pac-10. They haven't had a victory for a long time, obviously. And this may be the time. You know, Joel picked him to win last week. They let him down.
I was joking. I was serious.
But so now they're playing a winless away from home team in Cal, and who's playing with a winless quarterback. So good opportunity. I see. But you know, the funny thing is, even though Cal's on the road playing with the second team quarterback, they're still 15-point favorites to win. So that's not a lot of respect for the Washington State Cougars. I mean, even Dangerfield got more respect than that. So, however, I'm going to kick some more stand in the face right now because I'm going to pick Cal 29, Washington State 24.
It comes down to I just can't pick Washington State. There's really no breaking this game down for me. Washington State's bad. Cal isn't much better. So 21-17 Cal.
Okay. Now we got a good head-to-head game right now. We got Arizona and Stanford. Jack.
Well, this is the Pac-10 game of the week right here. We got two Pac-10 contenders. Both of them have Rose Bowl aspirations. Matt Scott, you know, he's been a really able substitute, but I think if you're going to go toe-to-toe with Stanford, I think Nick Foles has to be back this game because he gives them the deep ball threat that they really don't have with Matt Scott. And you got to have the long play, the big play capability to match up with Stanford. You know, the last three meetings have been decided by just 7 points collectively, and all three meetings have been won by the home team. And honestly, I think the home team is going to win again this week. I'm going to go with the home team, Stanford 31, Arizona 24.
And speaking of Foles, and he is back from my understanding. I just don't know with a couple of weeks out how well Foles will be. First of all, this Arizona offense has been inconsistent. You know, there's been some weeks where they're playing Cal where they score 10 points. There's some weeks where they're scoring a lot more. I just don't know if the consistency's there. The one thing you have to say about Stanford is one that the game's at home, which isn't a huge home field advantage, but that they've been very consistent on offense. You know, Stanford's lowest point total this year has been against UCLA, where they still put up 35 and kind of sandbagged it a little bit where they could have put up more. I'm going to go Stanford on this. I'm going to go 34-27.
I have it 31-27 Stanford.
Oh, close.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a close game. I think in the end it's the Stanford offense which takes control of the game. I think Stanford's offense is better than Oregon State's offense, which scored a ton on Arizona's defense as it is. I think Arizona's defense is capable by any means, but Stanford's offense will take charge in this game.
What's appealing about this game to me, I mean, this is definitely two different types of team. You have an Arizona, which is a finesse and quick team, versus a Stanford team, which is a big bruiser. So, you know, it'll be an interesting style, but yeah, there's Stanford.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the Arizona defense matches up against the Cardinal offense.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Too much luck.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the national games that are out there right now. Let's look at Baylor at Oklahoma State. Joel, I want to know what your predictions are.
Well, on this one, there's so many reasons to go with Oklahoma State besides the fact that they're like a 7-point favorite. But, you know, with their three-headed monster with Whedon, with their running back, Kendall Hunter, and now they got Justin Blackman back. Plus, to say that Baylor has not beaten, they have not won a game in Stillwater in the last 8 meetings. And you have to date back to 1939 was the last time that Baylor beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater. But as my friend Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. I'm actually going to go with Baylor on this game. I think this is, this is probably the best offenses each team has faced. I think Baylor will present some problems for Oklahoma State, and I think Baylor has a better defense. But ultimately, I like Baylor's offense with Robert Griffin, that dual threat quarterback. Their running back has had 4 straight games of over 100 yards, and I like Kendall Wright, the wide receiver on the outside. And I think the biggest thing for Baylor is the fact that they gained some confidence last week, which is something I think, you know, as a program's on the rise that they need to get. And by beating Texas, although Texas is down, still going into Austin, kicking it to them,
Big win.
I think is a huge momentum for them. It builds that confidence. I think they go into Stillwater and they win this closely, but they still win it 31-27.
Wow.
I have it a bit higher scoring than you. I have 45-35 Oklahoma State, and I think Oklahoma.
You're wrong.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah. I think Oklahoma State's offense is going to be too much. I like Baylor's defense, but I don't like them enough to pick them over Oklahoma State. I like Blackman being back, leading the nation in receiving still, and Kendall Hunter's a great running back. So I don't think the Baylor defense is ready for that.
Well, I agree with Jason. You know, outside of TCU, Oklahoma State is going to be far and away the best team that Baylor's faced all year. And you know they lost to TCU 45-10 back a while ago. And I think, quite honestly, this Cowboy offense is better than that TCU offense. Like Joel said, I think they got more weapons. On the other hand, this is going to be the best team that Oklahoma State's seen outside of Nebraska. So that'll be interesting. It's going to be a good matchup. I think the defense in this game is going to be left on the sidelines most of the time. And honestly, if Robert Griffin, though, I'll agree with Joel, if Robert Griffin can go into Stillwater and win that game, he's going to move up a notch on my Heisman Trophy list. I can tell you that. But I don't think he does. I don't think he wins it. Sorry, Joel. Right on, Jason. I got Oklahoma State 39, Baylor 34 in a tight one.
Okay, we'll find out who's
We'll see who's eating crow next week.
Okay, taking a look at our national game, Alabama at LSU. Jason, give us your predictions.
Well, I think the key to the game is going to be the LSU defense against the Alabama offense, because LSU doesn't have much offense to speak of. I have Alabama win the game pretty handily, 31-17. I kind of think LSU's still kind of fraudulent. I think they should have lost a couple more games if they actually won, and that's how I have it.
I can see that. I mean, LSU just has a tough time putting up points. I mean, their passing offense is ranked 113th out of 120 schools. Not good when you're facing this Alabama team. You can't be one-dimensional against Alabama. And I think on the offensive side for Alabama, they have way too many weapons with McElroy, with Trent Richardson, and with Ingram. So I see this game. I don't see this game being that close. I'm going to go 31-10.
Well, you know, earlier in the year, Alabama took it on the chin with South Carolina. They lost earlier, but you know, in the SEC, I don't think anybody's counting Alabama out of winning the SEC yet. And I think, honestly, if you ask most people in the SEC, they're picking Alabama to still come back and win it, to beat Auburn later on, to beat LSU this weekend. But as Joel said, you know, LSU plays really good defense, and but the sad thing is for LSU is Alabama plays good offense and good defense. And so I'm going to have to go with Alabama, and I've got them 28-21.
And I think one more thing I think is huge for Alabama is I think that psychologically they still see themselves potentially going to the national championship.
They do. That's
so
right.
there's a lot riding on that for
That's
them,
right.
just as a motivational
That's right.
standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, let's take a look at one more national game. We've got TCU going to play Utah, both highly ranked teams. Jack, let's hear your predictions on that.
Well, the winner of this game is most likely not going to lose another game the rest of the year. The only one on anyone's remaining schedule would be Utah. They got Notre Dame later on, but that's just a minor bump in the road. I don't think they'll have a problem with that. So I don't see anybody losing of these two teams. The winner's going to win the rest of the game. But will they play for the national title? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I don't think so. I don't think the winner of this game is really going to still have a shot at the national title. TCU has been incredible this year. They've inflicted 5 teams. They've given them the worst loss of the year. 5 teams. Two more teams. They've given them their second worst loss of the team. That's pretty dominant. Now Utah's been impressive as well, but I would argue that TCU's had a tougher schedule. They played. Let's see who they played. They played Baylor. They beat Baylor. They beat Oregon State. Both of those were their victims. And so even though Utah has the home field advantage, I'm going to go with TCU. And I see it 27-21 in a hard-fought contest.
Okay.
Yeah, and in Utah, although Utah has won the last 3 out of 4 competitions, yeah, I too am going with TCU. And to touch upon what you said, I think the fact that they've been battle-tested. They have at least played an Oregon State team, which they took advantage of. I mean, they beat them pretty handily, and they also, I mean, when they first beat Baylor, we thought, oh, not a big deal. But now we look back at that game, and to beat Baylor as bad as they did,
45-10.
45-10. I mean, now that's a really impressive win.
That's an impressive one.
And so, I mean, I just like that. I like also the fact that they have a senior-laden quarterback with Dalton. I just think it's too much for Utah, and I'm going to go, although a close one, I'm going to go 24-21 TCU in Salt Lake City. And what's